Good. Welcome to the Hour to Health. Tonight it's a little involved. A lot of times we talk about how the body works, how health works, how to restore health. Has anyone ever heard of an extinction level event?
Yep.
That means our population is going to die off. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. It's just mere survival. Okay, and this is something that you're absolutely not going to hear on the television or in the standard news sources. And do you want to know why? Because what if they didn't have a solution? What if Tokyo was actually radioactive and needed to be evacuated? What do you do with 30 million Japanese? There's no place to put them. What do you do if your food source is radioactive? You can't tell people it's poisonous because you have no replacement. Okay, there's a reason that you're not being told the truth. Okay, but we're going to show how to survive that. What you want to do is start not just looking at radiation, but what types of radiation there are. Because, I mean, you know, there's some fear mongers out there that'll say, well, the lights are electric and they're radiating. Yeah, they are. The sun is too. I've got a little Geiger counter here that clicks about 10 to 15 times a second because radiation is coming through the building, okay, and hitting this, and that's normal. So we are exposed to a lot of radiation consistently. But we have an extinction level event that's occurring right now that can actually wipe out our population. So when you look at it, non-ionizing radiation, that's very simple stuff. The ionizing stuff is when it actually starts to break down. Ionizing radiation actually breaks down in your body and causes cell damage. So the whole point of radiation exposure, can your cells repair faster than they break down? Okay, does that make sense? That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing we got to look at. And you could look at non-ionizing. I mean, we're talking laser lights. We're talking all of the safe stuff. Radio frequencies. The sunlight has actually ionizing radiation in there that can damage you, but it's also been shown to reverse multiple sclerosis. A lot of people are afraid of the sun, and the sun is actually very, very beneficial. When we talk about direct sunlight exposure, we talk about toxic fats underneath your skin, and if the sunlight hits it, that's what causes problems. It's not the sunlight that's poisonous. Human beings have been in the sun for 40,000 years. Only recently we're starting to develop different cancers and things because of the toxic fat that we're being exposed to. So it's our poisoning our body going through it. So it's not the sunlight. Sunlight's actually very beneficial. Nuclear radiation is totally different. This is what we're being exposed to now. And when we look at this, radium oxide, radioactive iodine, strontium, cesium, there are multiple different isotopes that we're being exposed to. And one of the ways that we can find out that it's actually man-made radiation is that each nuclear plant has a little signature. They have a specific signature, almost like a fingerprint. So we can identify the radiation that we're being exposed to has from Fukushima or has from Chernobyl, or it can be from Washington State, which is leaking a ton of radiation down on us too. So we have to look at this. Now iodine, this is the one that you've heard about, you know, where you take the iodine supplements that can be toxic. Radioactive iodine is one of the most popular, but it's not the deadliest ones out there. When you look at this, and these are actually kids that have been exposed in Chernobyl, and you can see the swelling, the deformation of the limbs and everything. And this all comes from the body breaking down faster than it builds up. So these are actual kids that have been exposed to radiation. If you have kids, okay, or know someone that's pregnant or thinking about pregnancy, they're the ones that are most susceptible to radiation damage. So this is something that we absolutely have to start paying attention to. What's interesting, you can see the lies inside of the media when Chernobyl happened. Chernobyl happened around 20 years ago. There's not really illness from Chernobyl, don't worry about it. It's really more psychological. This is not psychological. Okay, over 3 million people were affected in Russia. And what are you going to do if you're a poor country? They say it wasn't... It wasn't the peace system that wiped out Russia. It was actually Chernobyl that wiped it out. It wasn't peaceful. It wiped them out financially. Fukushima is actually going to cost around $3 trillion to clean it up, and it's going to wipe out Japan financially. I mean, if you look at this, mammograms are direct radiation. They actually cause more cancers than they prevent. So when we look at this, and you're not going to hear about this stuff because the way the news media is run, it's run more for profit. So a lot of the stuff you're not going to hear. Now, raise your hand if you've ever heard of the Hanford Reservation up in Washington. Well, you know how we have a lot of nuclear weapons? I mean, a lot. We're talking thousands and thousands. Okay. Well, during that processing of building nuclear weapons, we ended up with waste products. And these waste products are incredibly toxic. They're poisonous. They're radioactive. So we have this facility up in Washington that's leaking radiation like crazy because it's too expensive. It's one of the Superfund sites to clean up. And I'm not laughing that it's a Superfund site. But what's wild is these are actual pictures of the decaying rods that are inside of this facility. Now, these rods have to be kept safe for about 22,000 years. A U.S. government agency is going to keep these safe, protected in a facility that's never going to have an earthquake. There's never going to have a natural disaster. They're always going to have free-flowing tons of water, about 30 feet of water over the nuclear active rods. They're going to be safe for 22,000 years. Bull. Okay, you know, it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, there's a way to store these type of nuclear waste materials in called dry casks, except those are very, very expensive. It costs about $1 million per cask, and that's a way to dry store it, but we're not going to do it. You know why? Too much money. It's too expensive. Exactly. Yeah. Now, when we look at this, this is actually the Defense Department. That's Fukushima. You can see similar explosions are happening up in Washington and up down here too. So, I mean, just be aware that we are being exposed to radiation. Okay, there was a movie a few years ago called The China Syndrome. Okay, what that was is they said that if the nuclear core melted, it would burn a hole right through the facility into the core of the Earth. That is now happening. Okay, at the reactors inside of Fukushima. It's actually melted through the floor. We cannot solve it. It's burning right down through. We don't know what's going to happen. It's never been done before. We have no models for it. Okay, we can only guess. We do know that there's in reactor building 4. Imagine a really rickety building, okay, with 1,500 nuclear rods on top, that with about 30 feet of water. The roof has been blown off, and underneath it is the reactor. So if this rickety building that has virtually no walls, no roof, it's been blown off, if this falls down or those rods get exposed to air, it releases more radiation than 800 nuclear tests than the world's ever seen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Now, it's a fire. If it catches fire, and you know we can solve it now, but we can't because it's too expensive. We can solve it now by dry casking this, and they have an idea of building the building around it, and they may start or have it finished by around 2014. So this rickety building has to be kept for the next 2 years without it falling. Right now we're being exposed to certain amounts of radiation, but if Building 4 falls, understand it is an extinction level event. It's going to be very different to survive in the northern hemisphere if this happens. So if you ever hear anything about Building 4 going down, start to plan to visit South America or Australia. Okay, like permanently. Which is tough because a lot of us have our lives here and our families here. And it's very, very difficult to uproot. So the purpose of this talk today is to explain how to survive here, because we can survive here. But also, you have to step it up a notch, okay, in order to survive. Now when we look at this, the radiation doses, you need to have a degree in engineering to even begin to understand this. Like, have you ever heard of a peck, a bushel, or a pound? Okay, these are different units of weight that aren't going to make sense. Well, what they have in nuclear radiation, because there's a lot of people that are going to make a ton of money off of just the fear itself. So you got to start to understand it's good to be cautious. It's stupid to be fearful. Okay, let's not panic. So when we look at the two different ways to measure it, radiation absorbed dose, that's a RAD. It's a similar thing to a REM. This means the amount of radiation you're exposed. And this is something that a lot of things are measured in. Okay, and it's really different because if each one of us ate a radioactive apple, we could measure the radiation dose inside of that apple, but how much do we absorb? Okay, so the absorption, this is the amount of radiation absorbing. The other unit of measurement is called becquerels or curies. This is the amount of radiation composed inside of a radioactive substance. Okay? So it's not what you absorb, it's just what's there. So I can sit down and calculate, yeah, there's 1,500 fuel rods inside of building 4. It has enough radiation to equal 800 nuclear test bombs. And if that all releases in the atmosphere, the entire northern part of the world is gone. Okay? Except that's not true. I'm just calculating it out. Okay? In a real nuclear bomb, you have a small amount of nuclear material surrounded by an explosive. All of that is instantly blown up, so it releases a tremendous amount of energy. This is going to be a slow amount of release of energy, incredibly toxic energy, that may never stop. Okay, so it's all a guess. Nobody actually really knows. But when we go back to the measurements, 1 curie is 37 billion becquerels. Okay, now a becquerel, you're going to see this is what they're measuring in. Do you know why? 1 curie, 37 billion becquerels. So if you want to sensationalize something, aren't you going to say it in the lowest common denominator? Okay. Oh my gosh, there's 1 million becquerels. Okay. There's 10,000. I mean, each one is dangerous. But I want you to put it in perspective. So when you look at radiation workers, now this is a thousandth of a radiation or a REM, which is similar to a RAD, which is the radiation absorbed dose. So when you look at this, the general public, 4, 10, 25, radiation workers, 5,000. So we're looking at a very small amount that's safe to get. This is a safe amount of radiation generally. Now, millisieverts, a sievert is the amount of radiation that's present inside of a unit. So like, let's say we have a building that's a nuclear power plant who just had a bomb blow off in it and blew the roof off. Oh my gosh, there's Fukushima. We've got 3 buildings like that. So these buildings have no roof. They've been blown up. They're leaching radioactive steam into the atmosphere that's covering our planet. Okay, that's what's happening right now. Well, when we look at this, they're saying 400 millisieverts per hour of steam is going out into the atmosphere right now. So we're being bathed. Now, how much of that is going to hit California? We don't know. We absolutely don't know. We can watch the stratosphere. We know that it's continually pumping this radioactive stuff out, and there's no way to stop it right now. Now, this is March 14th, just a few months ago. They said about 400 millisieverts per hour. So this is the radiation potential in that steam that's being released. And they're saying that the storage fuel pond in reactor 4 plant is on fire, and reactor 4, it's been on fire, it's blown up, the rods are still underwater, could be more, it's just, there's a lot. Okay, there's a lot of radiation potential over there. Now when you look at this chart, and it talks about millisieverts, and remember there's 400 millisieverts per hour being released from the nuclear plant, a chest x-ray has 1/10 of 1 millisievert. So your body can tolerate that. And then when you look up, you can go up a little bit more, you're going to get cancer at about 50 millisieverts. How many millisieverts is released from each plant every hour? About 400. Okay, now granted this is 20,000 miles away, but still that's a consistent amount of radiation that's being released. And of course then when you get up to the actual sieverts, most people if you get that much exposure, you're dead pretty quickly. Now, we're finding radiation in the oceans around us. Now I scuba dive, okay? I'm around these beautiful sea kelp forests that are amazing, and we're finding now in Corona del Mar, which is just south of us, about a half hour, they found 2.5 or 2,500 becquerels in the seaweed. Now remember, it takes like 37 billion to equal 1 curie, so this is the radiation content that we're finding in the seaweed outside of California right now. So it's a very small amount, okay? It's more than was there before Fukushima, but it's hitting our waters right now. Now, of course, the fish, small fish eat the plankton that are being exposed to the radiation. Larger fish will eat those fish. Really big, aggressive fish will eat those fish that ate the fish that ate the fish. So the further up the food chain that you get, they're getting more and more and more radioactivity. So now there's a big thing about how radiation is being seen in bluefin tuna. Okay, why? Because they're very aggressive and they travel. They can actually travel around 25,000 miles around the Pacific in just about a few months. So they're fantastic, fantastic fish. But they're finding out incredible amounts of radiation in these fish. So do I take my handheld radio detector when I go by the fish market? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. Of course I do. Yeah, because I want to see it. So don't panic. Just be aware. Okay, does that make sense? So when you look at this, there's 5 times the amount of becquerels inside of the tuna. A normal radiation level, this means pre-Fukushima, was about 1 becquerel. So radiation is common, but when we say 5 times, it's still only 5 becquerels. It's not a, oh my God, run away from the tuna, drop that can of tuna fish, honey, you know, you're going to get glow in the dark. You know, it's just realize that it's more than it should be. It means that the food's being poisoned. France, okay, now France, we're, you know what, 10,000 miles away? France is further. Okay, but they're still in the northern hemisphere. They're seeing radioactivity from Fukushima in their grass, in their milk, and they're saying avoid, and this is milk in France. Now these guys don't use hormones, they don't use the growth hormones that produce the sick animals that we have. These guys are generally raised on pastures. They're saying avoid the milk, avoid cream, avoid cheese, avoid spinach, the large green leafy vegetables, that it can be dangerous. And I like this. What they said was prolonged contamination among vulnerable groups of the population can no longer be considered negligible, and it's now necessary to avoid risky behavior. So if you're doing those risky behaviors like eating, do your best to avoid it. So, I mean, you know, you start looking at this stuff and it's like, well, wait a second. We're seeing it in grasses, we're seeing it in milks, we're seeing it in meats, and we're seeing it in fruits and vegetables. And grains. So I'm going, there's not much left. So what can you do? Okay, so it's not panic, but if we're getting radiation at every set, what can we do? And you know, the West Coast has 10 times the amount of radiation that France has. How come our government isn't saying, oh my God, avoid dairy? Would that wipe out California? It would. It'd totally wipe out our economy. If they say don't eat dairy, our presidential campaign wouldn't be funded, because the Milk and Dairy Board and the Meat Board, that's pretty much hundreds of billions of dollars worth of subsidies. It wouldn't work. It's interesting. Vladimir Babenko, he was head in Belarus. He monitors the Chernobyl event and to protect the population around. He can't understand why the Japanese designated food and beverage products much higher than they approve in Belarus. Okay, do you know why? Again, you got 30 million people in just Tokyo. The only thing you have to feed them or give them to drink is radioactive. So do you say, sorry guys, you're on your own, you know, let's create mass panic, you're going to have to turn into cannibals and eat your less radioactive neighbor, or it's all safe. Don't worry. Okay, so I mean, you got to understand that the government is under a, you know, kind of not a rock and a hard place, but they don't know what to do because they've never planned for this. They don't know. 200 becquerels per kilogram of cesium in Japan's drinking water is 20 times higher than what they would approve. But why do they have to approve it? Because they can't do anything about it. Okay, now the government, our government generally, we don't have a free press and it's not really accurate. But now it's getting absolutely ridiculous. Okay, I mean, when you look at it, what they used to look at waste at 100 becquerels per kilogram would be considered nuclear waste. And that means that it has to be, you know, gone to a nuclear facility. Now they upped it to 8,000 is considered nuclear waste. 100 kilograms before Fukushima was nuclear waste. Now you could actually eat 100 kilograms of radiation. I mean, it's just like, but people aren't going to be told this. Why aren't they told this? Because there's no alternative in their minds. I'm going to explain to you some alternatives that are going to make you healthier. Now, I'm a big proponent of raw dairy. Not anymore. Okay, not anymore. Why? Because it's not safe. See, in order to have a raw, healthy cow, they eat, what do they eat? Grass. Yeah, that's poisonous now. So the dairy, the meat products, and the milk products that's coming out of a cow are going to be dangerous because the radiation is coming down in dust, coming down in rain, coming down in fog, and in order to be organic, they have to eat this stuff. And they're eating massive amounts, volumes of it. So the milk and dairy are, the organic cows are the most vulnerable. And it's interesting, the sick pasteurized dairy, these cows are going to die faster than the organic ones because they're absolutely sick, and the sicker you are, the faster you're going to die in this environment. Like this, radiation was detected in breast milk in several women in Tokyo. It has to be. Why? Because they're eating nothing but radioactive food, they're bathing in radioactive water, they're drinking radioactive stuff. So, I mean, that just makes sense. The mental giants, okay, of our government that have approved all of these nuclear power plants that end up with nuclear waste, they say, well, let's bury it. Okay, I don't know if you ever heard of the genius idea of burying it in Yucca Mountain for 22,000 years. Okay, but I mean, you know, 20,000 years ago, we were beating rocks and writing on cave walls. You know, we're going to protect this for 22,000 years? Well, obviously Yucca Mountain, I think they pulled away the license and they ended up saying, you're right, there's 7 active volcanoes in the area. We have earthquakes every 7 or 8 years, and we're surrounded by, you know, 100 million people, you know, right in Nevada. It probably wouldn't be a good idea to store limitless nuclear waste here. So what do we do with the spent nuclear rods? The reason I'm showing you this, Fukushima is really, really, really bad. Okay, that's an extinction level event where our planet may not survive if everything happens, but we don't know. The other stuff, we've got Washington State that is absolutely 10 times worse than Fukushima, that is an extinction level event. We also have 135 nuclear plants around America that are extinction level events if even one of them goes off. If San Onofre goes off, kiss the 11 million people in LA goodbye. What would the government say if San Onofre blew up to the people in LA? Oops. Don't worry about it. Everything's safe. They wouldn't do it. Oh, okay, you know, although, where did Homer Simpson work? Nuclear plant. So you know, the whole thing, just know the danger's there, okay? And then approach it with confidence. If your body breaks down faster than builds up, you're done. You're absolutely done. If you build up faster than you break down, you're safe. Okay, absolutely safe. So the type of humans that we need to worry about are the children or the pregnant women, okay? Because they're building rapid cells and they're going to be affected more. So they have to be absolutely cautious and aware of what goes in their body. Okay, does that make sense? Here, this guy, okay? I know you might have thought you had a bad day today. He was in Hiroshima gets blown up by the nuclear bomb. He survives. He's very, very injured. So he goes to his hometown, Nagasaki, to recover. He gets blown up again. So I mean, this guy, you know, I've had bad days, but nothing like this. And he survived till 93. Why? Because even though he had tremendous amount of radiation exposure, his body was able to build up faster than it broke down. And then when you start looking at this, health is optimal cell function, sickness is lack of optimal cell function. When you start looking at this kind of stuff, and we're going to talk about toxic products, soy is deadly. I could have said this a year ago, and you'd say, yeah, you're right, it's bad for you. But, you know, I like the taste of it, and my kids love the soy milk. No. Right now, you don't have an option. If you eat fast food, you're going to die early. And I say that with absolute utmost confidence because your cells are not going to make it. If you take prescription drugs, you are not going to make it. You're going to die early, guaranteed. Soy, you avoid it at all costs, unless it's miso and it's been fermented. But you got to figure, this blocks protein. It blocks minerals. It weakens the immune system. Why is this stuff on the shelves? Because it's profitable. Okay, it's poisonous. If you go to any of these places to get anything other than water, okay, and even then be suspect, you cannot eat there. If you eat there, you'll die. You will die. They have nuclear dairy, they have nuclear meat, they have synthetic grains. When you look at these, blood pressure drugs. Now I've got a list of drugs here on the back that even pre-nuclear war, okay, pre-Fukushima, that these drugs were dangerous. Understand, all medications slow or stop metabolic processes. Is that all medications? All medications. Right now, we have a problem with metabolism. If your body breaks down faster than it builds up, you die. Okay, you die. If it builds up faster than you break down, you live. How long? That guy made it 93 years old. Okay, being double exposed. We can have healthy kids. We can survive this. But this is foolishness. It's absolutely ignorant, lack of science. I mean, ignorance or evil, you choose. Okay? I'm thinking ignorance. I don't want to get pissed off with those people. But look at this. Blood pressure medications slow the pump down. Do you think that helps oxygen in the tissue or slows it down? Yeah. Let's say that you happen to be 18-year-old athlete, vegan athlete. Let's say you happen to be a 19-year-old vegan athlete that rides his single-speed bike 12 miles a day and plays semi-pro paintball. My son! Yeah, oh, sorry, yeah. His arteries are crystal clear. He's a rock. He's stronger in hell. His blood pressure, as opposed to the 63-year-old guy that just had a lobe of his lung cut out because he had pulmonary tumors, what's his blood pressure supposed to be like? Do you think it's supposed to be the same? What an ignorant world is, they say, yeah, we got to lower his blood pressure because it might be high. No kidding. He's got damage. He needs more blood supply to his lungs. Why would you possibly want to lower it? What guy would possibly compare a 63-year-old guy missing part of his lung with an 18-year-old to have the same blood pressure? Well, that's ridiculous. So that thing, rethink it. Just rethink it. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, by God, those things clump blood vessels together. Advil for peak performance? Give me a break. That's ridiculous. Diet products. This stuff, diet, no. I mean, it turns into formaldehyde, packaged products. Then you got this ridiculous practice. Okay, 74 shots, 38 by the time they're 6. These are all neurotoxins. These will kill kids earlier. They do not protect from diseases. Any scientist knows that. If they want, we have a physician's responsibility form that if you choose to get vaccinated, he can actually sign it and take responsibility. Okay, but you know, obviously, since there have been no animal studies on the full dose of vaccines, say, no, I'm going to wait till you test it on a chimp before you test it on my kid. This is the list of medications. Obviously, you don't want to do those. Now, you might have heard taking iodine for radiation exposure. The problem with this is it can build up to toxic levels. It only works against one isotope, and it's only good for the first like 12 hours of exposure. So in my book, this isn't really an option. Okay, why? Because I plan to live in a high radiation exposure environment. I don't want to just do something that can build up toxic levels that I take at one time, so that wouldn't be an option. Now this is interesting. This is what your children and you're going to have at least 2 times a day for supplements. Why? Because I want my neighbors healthy. Yes? Spirulina and chlorella. What's interesting, they use this in Russia after Chernobyl. It binds to radioactive isotopes. It's fantastic. It comes in little tiny pill form. It comes in powder form. I'm also going to show you how to mix up a bentonite clay. Yes, you're going to eat dirt. Okay, why? Because it binds to heavy metals. So this supplement twice a day, chlorella and spirulina. It's healthy algae. It's going to help bind to the toxics and get your body healthy. Okay, does that make sense? Miso soup, and it was interesting, in World War II, there were hospitals in Japan. One of them had nearly 100% survival rate. The other one had nearly 80% death rate. And the reason is, you've never seen, imagine you're a Japanese physician, you see these people with the weirdest burns you've ever seen, okay? And it was just something not right. I mean, we're talking clothes fused to the body. It was an instant heat. Nothing made sense. So one hospital decided to deal with the pain. What's that opium starts with an M? Morphine. Yeah, baby. Okay. When I had my legs broken, I was the first in line for morphine. I love the stuff. Okay. Yeah, great for pain. But what it does, it suppresses the lungs. So if you take too much morphine, you can't detox. And if you've just been burned, okay, your kidneys are overtaxed. So your lungs are the only thing that'll keep you alive. So what happens if you give morphine to a radiation burn victim? They die of pneumonia. Yeah, baby. Okay, so that's foolish. Okay, what they did at the smart hospitals, they gave them barley miso soup. This is like the version of home-style cooking, okay, and a macrobiotic diet. And they found out, oh my gosh, barley miso, this actually binds to heavy metals. They didn't know that it was heavy metals. They didn't know anything about radiation, but they gave it to them and they felt better. They recovered. So this should spirulina chlorella be in everybody's cupboard? Yes or yes? Yeah. Should barley miso soup be in everybody's cupboard? Absolutely. Yeah, because it's just smart. When you look at this, whole grains, fantastic. Now, of course, I'm going to be checking it for radiation, and if it's really radioactive, I'm not going to take it. Okay, because I just think that's smart. Okay, but B6, buckwheat products, seaweed, even though we're seeing, you know, a little bit of radiation in the kelp out there, okay, still check it, okay, because it may not be, the benefits far outweigh the risks. Like if you say, well, what if I stop the blood pressure medication, won't my blood pressure go up? Yeah, the body self-regulates. It's also going to go down. It's going to go up and down. It does that. So does blood sugar. It does that. Your body self-regulates. Send the doctors to me and I'll explain physiology again. When you look at this, detoxing compounds, and you can see glutathione. What's interesting, people used to think that broccoli would bind heavy metals. It doesn't. It has glutathione. It produces glutathione because it's a sulfur-containing material, and then that binds to heavy metals. So you can supplement with glutathione. And we're talking aloe vera, pine bark, the green tea extracts, grapeseed extracts. There's a lot of different things you can do. Baking soda, fantastic. Even the U.S. Army recommends it. Because you got to figure, if you're being exposed to this stuff and it's toxic, you've got 2 filters called kidneys. So any medications, what usually gets damaged? Kidneys. Aspirin, leading cause of death, a leading cause of kidney disease. 4th deadliest drug in America. Anybody that prescribes aspirin is either ignorant or evil. Good, okay, good. Glad we're working together. Okay, so, and I like this. Uranium is one of the only metals that gets significant bonding to the carbonate, or the sodium bicarbonate. Isn't that interesting? I know, it makes so much sense.
Ouch.
Yeah, hey, we were all teenagers. This was us one time, okay? Yeah, I'm feeling good. No, Mom, I'm not going to burn. I'm going to be fine. Okay, so you look at this and you go in, baking soda. Baking soda is fantastic. I mean, this is something that you should have about a 5-gallon bucket, and let's say it's raining, plant 4 just blew up, you know, you do a radiation detector, yeah, honey, we're getting a lot of it. You know, what about monthly baking soda baths? You know, do a pound per bath, you know, in the ballpark, if you happen to be a nuclear worker, you know, but this is something that should be in everybody's.
And just bathe in it?
That's it, yeah. You know, it dries out your skin a little bit, so you can do some aloe vera afterwards, but that's fantastic. Dead sea salts work good. Even magnesium bath flakes, you're going to see a lot of this stuff. Those are fantastic. This one here, I want to show you how to eat dirt. This is bentonite clay. Now they have it at health food stores about half this much for about $35. How much does this one cost? $6. I like $6 better. My mom raised me frugal, not cheap, frugal. Okay, so this is bentonite clay, and what you do.
Where do you get it for $6?
No, I'm not going to tell you. No, because if I tell you, you're going to tell other people, and then they're going to buy it out. No, you go to Mother's Market. Okay. And it is dirt. It really is. And you do about, and I'm really accurate in measuring this stuff. Okay, you do exactly 1 cup. Now, since dirt doesn't taste good, and we actually have bentonite clay in this form too. This is really good for detoxing, okay, but it tastes horrible. Horrible. When you do a 5-day cleanse, this is what you take. And believe me,
5 days.
yeah, death is generally preferred. Okay, this right here is raw cacao. Okay, now it's got good minerals in it, but it also has almost like an addictive quality where it's got like an antidepressant in it. So this stuff here you got to be kind of cautious of, but it does make dirt taste better, and it also does bind to the heavy metals. Now, this right here, what you're going to do is you mix it up so it's about the consistency of frosting. Okay. And I always like to mix it up first together, but this is something that you need about a teaspoon a day. Now, you wouldn't think that this stuff would need refrigeration, but it does. I don't know if it's the cacao or the peppermint oil that we're going to pour in later, but then you mix a little bit of water in there, and then I'm going to pass this off to Melissa, who's going to stir this up. Okay, and we want this, yeah, we want this the consistency of frosting. And then this is the most important part. And don't be crazy with this stuff. This is peppermint oil. This is like nuclear.
Why do you need peppermint?
Why?
1 drop.
A couple drops.
I put 3 drops. I really meant to put 2. I'm sorry about that. Okay, but now while Melissa's making that, also, and this is just a way to, I mean, you could have bentonite clay shooters just a couple times a day. Why? Because you're being exposed to radiation. This thing is really cool. Now, this is a pocket radiation detector. It costs around $150. It runs off a 9-volt battery. It's not going to tell you how many becquerels you're getting exposed to. You do it per click. Like if it goes click, 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 that's pretty much normal for our area. Usually about 10 to 15 clicks per area for our areas is considered normal radiation exposure. If you happen to pass it over something that it's, you know, click, 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 you wouldn't want to consume that.
What about a constant buzz?
Constant buzz, you know, you go by the store, you get some baking soda, you're going to pour it in a bath, okay, you know, you say, honey, jump in here with me. Okay, so when you look at this, and also, now one of the other things, because we're breathing this stuff in, glutathione is produced in your body by sulfur-containing vegetables. So garlic, onions. This is going to be like health food for you. There's also a reduced glutathione that you can actually breathe in a nebulizer. Okay, and if you don't have a nebulizer, you can just mix a little bit of glutathione with distilled water and spray it. Just, okay, and that will help to bind to some of the heavy metals because it's fantastic and particularly effective against the uranium oxide. So let's say you have somebody that's been outside in an area that's not, appropriate. They might have some lung issues. Nebulizer, glutathione in a nebulizer, fantastic detoxicant. Then you start looking at phytonutrients, okay? And this is multicolored vegetables. Now, it's tough because some of the vegetables, like strawberries, particularly if they're not organic, are sprayed with a fungicide and they're deadly. Okay, the fungicide that's sprayed on them can cause tumors in rats. So you no longer have the option of, gee, I'm going to try and buy organic. If you're eating the skin, it has to be organic. You don't have the option. Is a hot dog food anymore? Okay, good. You don't have the option. See, your body could tolerate toxicity as before, but it's being exposed to so much now, you can't. Okay, you're just going to die early. Green vegetable juices and fruit juices are fantastic. And there's some people, my son's a big advocate of this, of fruit only. Fruitarians. You can get every mineral, every amino acid, every enzyme, but you got to eat a tremendous volume. I mean, God knows how many, 15, 20 bananas a day, the jackfruit, the largest fruit in the world. I've seen him polish off half of one. It's carnivorous. I got close to him once. No. No. So when you look at this, the way to survive this, number one, is it consistency of...
A little bit more runny.
Oh, yeah, do you have a spoon in there?
We have lots of them.
Okay, yeah, stir it up just a little bit more. Okay, oh God, yeah, that's almost perfect. Yeah, maybe just a little bit. Nice job. Just had to take a clay break. Okay, so when you look at this, no, I'm actually going to give everybody a little bite if you want it. Okay. If you don't, you're not going to detox. So, fairwinds.org. Keep attached to this guy. It's Arnie Gunderson, and the guy is brilliant. He's an ex-nuclear engineer. He's keeping a watch on it. His website is fantastic. You absolutely have to keep tabs on it, watch it, and he approaches it with an intellect and with intelligence. Just brilliant guy. And enenews.com. These guys, again, it's unbiased. They got photos and pictures on the ground. It's up to the day information, which is absolutely what's required now. Okay, you don't have a choice. You absolutely need to get checked for subluxations. Why? If you have nerve pressure, that means that your body is breaking down faster than can build up. Your body's self-regulating. So this means you, it means your kids, it means anybody that you want kept alive, they need to get their nerve pressure checked. They absolutely need to exercise. Why? Exercise increases glutathione levels. When you look on here, you're going to see, what did I put here? Ways to increase glutathione. Wow, how cool is that? You absolutely need proper nutrition. If you eat the skin, it's got to be organic. Check it for radiation. You have to do it. Sufficient rest. This means every night you got to sleep. And then prayer and meditation. Absolutely. Absolutely prayer and meditation. This stimulates the immune system response. Okay? We're still on this planet, and we've been here for a long time, and we will. Now, we've got our summer special. Okay. But honestly, tonight, I wanted you to be aware, but I didn't want to scare you. So thank you so much for making it. That was like amazing.